Hello, and welcome to episode 20 of the Eyes and Ears
Whee!
podcast. That's insane to me. 20 years we've been doing this. It feels like no, 20 episodes, it's 20 weeks.
Yeah.
We've faltered a little bit. We haven't been right on the money with every single week. Life happens, but we're here. This is our what would you I don't want to say inaugural, whatever. This is our 10th episode, right? I mean, our 20th episode. I can't even talk right now. It's our 20th episode.
Yes. 20.
So every 10, we're going to do an AMA, right? That
Correct.
was the goal. And so we're here. We're here doing it live. We're doing it live.
We're doing it live.
We're doing it live.
Although I know there's going to be some fact checkers out there. So just so you know that we know, we
True.
did look back and realize that our last AMA was episode 11 because we were thinking all the episodes that end in 1 will be an AMA, but we already said today's was going to be an AMA, so we're just going to go with it.
Yeah.
And from now on, it's going to be every 10th
Yeah.
episode. So 30, 40, 50, and so on.
Like this live stream and podcast is so popular that people are going to really they're not going to understand what's going on. But anyway, if you are here on Elon or my channel watching us, say hey, what's up? Ask your questions. You could pretty much ask away. I mean, this is just going to be kind of we don't have a topic. This is a kind of a Q&A AMA, right? Like this is
Yeah.
we're here for you guys. So if you don't ask questions, then we'll just end the stream. We'll leave. No, if you do, if the comment section gets a little squirrely, like it can sometimes with a lot of stuff going on as people come in and start, posting answers and stuff or like their own opinions. It would help us tremendously if you put a Q in front of your question. You don't have to put the colon if you don't want to. But you should get your colon checked occasionally. As
Especially
you get older.
if you reach the age of 40.
Yes. So yeah, but put a Q, capital Q in the front. That helps us see it so we can tag it and kind of get to it. Again, this is a Q&A stream, so unless we're in the middle of answering a question or in the middle of saying whatever we're trying to get out of our brains, then yeah, we're going to answer your question. Also, always like to mention that if you do want to show your support to the channel, other than just being here, which we greatly appreciate you just being here, you can feel free to hit us with a super chat or super sticker. Those are enabled, or basically that was a threat. Elon will punch you in the face if you do not. No. Now, if you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, then you will not be able to do any of that. So I apologize, but you can always join us I was going to say every Tuesday, but we don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
it may. I mean, I did a poll. Did you do a poll?
I should have, but I did not.
I did a
Did not.
poll. Actually, let me bring that up real quick. Because it wasn't unanimous, but let's see. It did side on Thursday was a little bit better for everyone, or at least everyone who participated in that community post that I posted. I can
Yes.
get the official numbers here in a second. Okay. Actually, gosh,
The neck and neck.
it ended up pretty close because I checked it a couple days ago and it was, pretty much Thursdays, but now it's 48% Tuesdays, 52% Thursdays.
Uh,
So
well,
pretty
I'll make
much
sure to
half
do
and
a
half.
poll after this and and we'll see what mine, we'll combine an average and see
Yeah.
what we get and let the people dictate when we're going to stream. If those 2% of the people want us to stream on Thursdays, we're going to have to do it. There's 4%, sorry, 48 to 52. That's a 4% difference. I math.
iMath. It's the new Apple calculator.
That you still can't get on your iPad.
Nope.
Why? Come on, Steve Jobs from the grave. Juan is here. Juan Hernandez, how you doing, buddy? Good evening to you as well. And we got a couple questions right off the bat. I do want to ask Elon real quick. How the hell are you? How you been doing? Working on anything fun?
I just finished. Well, I'm almost finished editing a video about Sony Pictures Core. Now
Hmm.
that I have a Sony TV, I finally check it out, and check it out, I did. So I'm gonna let you know my thoughts on it. I'm probably gonna schedule it for this Friday or something because tomorrow I'm getting on a plane and going to Denver, Colorado, because that is where Cedia is. So I'm excited about that. If you're in the Denver area and happen to have a ticket, or if you're another content creator and you just happen to be watching this, let's do a running high five while we're there.
And film it in 4K 120 slow mo.
Yes.
I want to see it. Utilize that Osmo Pocket 3. You down with
Yes.
OP3?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know me.
there you go, man. There you go. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm so excited for you to go see it. I know you went to CES a couple years ago now,
Yeah.
but you never been to a CEDIA type event. CES is, if those aren't from those listening or watching aren't familiar, CES is kind of, it does stand for the Consumer Electronic Showcase, right? Is that what it stands for?
I think so.
Showcase, I think.
Yeah.
And that's more for the general public, whereas CEDIA is more for integrators, installers, people kind of in the industry. It is open to the public. You can still go.
Yeah.
But it's primarily meant for like uh, showcasing upcoming products to these integrators, installers, and things like that. Whereas
Yeah.
CES is more about like, hey, we're announcing this at CES so everybody knows about it, kind of
And
thing.
CES is just more broad tech because, they deal with
Yeah.
kitchen appliances and cars and
Yep.
tractors and all kinds of stuff, whereas
Yeah.
CEDIA is, you know, TVs and home theaters and, outdoor things having to do with your home. So,
Yeah. I remember going to. I never saw any cars at CEDIA. Well, other than in the parking lot.
right.
Obviously, but like inside, I don't think I saw any cars. They do
Mhm.
have some. They did have some like lighting, like Lutron and
Oh, right.
Lutron, um, and like outdoor lighting companies and things like that. It's a different experience than going to something like a like one of these events that are in a hotel with demo rooms because
Mhm.
CD some of them will have demo rooms and they're very expensive. They've built a
Yeah.
room within this big, kind of area and but it's still not ideal. I mean
Mhm.
a hotel is not ideal, a conference room isn't ideal. But it is a little more intimate and a little more controllable than
Right.
these big shows. Because just got a lot going.
Well, like the big companies, like Trinoff, for example. Trinoff is always the one you need to hit up because they usually have like a very small booth on the main floor
Mhm.
that just points you in the direction, "Hey, go to our actual demo room that is off
Right,
campus."
right.
So it's a more controlled environment. So I'm excited to go to those kind of various off campus deals and check out what they have to offer.
They do. They have much to offer, much to
Mhm.
offer. Well, I've been working on some stuff behind the scenes as well, getting things geared up for tutorial recording. Yay! I know some people are going
Whee!
to be very excited about that. Others are going to be like, What are you doing?" So mini DSP, multi QX, yeah, a bunch of stuff. Just REW stuff. I'm unboxing the Aperion Audio E7 tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got my media racks put together. I haven't filmed anything for that yet, but I'm swapping all that stuff out. I nearly pulled my back out moving a subwoofer, so that was fun. Stretch,
Wow.
guys. Stretch before you lift with your legs, not with your back. All
Oh,
that
yeah.
stuff. But yeah, so a lot of fun stuff coming up. I'm super excited. And I don't have jury duty tomorrow, so that's a
Woo.
win-win. So I can actually like work on stuff. You know what it is? It's hard. And well, I've talked about this before. And yeah, first world problems. So I'm not complaining here at all. But when you're trying to well, you guys know anybody that's like had an idea that wants to like, oh, you know what I want to do to the theater room or this or whatever. I want to swap something out. It's a process. Um, as you get more complex with it, it becomes more and more of a process. And so,
Mhm.
like, doing something like this, the theater room's going to be down for probably a couple days. Um,
Right.
my wife and I, we watch our shows in there. We watch Stargate. We'll watch movies, and I'll play games. And like, I won't have that really option for a couple days. So, I look forward to it, but at the same time, I don't, because I just sometimes want to. It's my safe haven. It's where I go to like just
Yeah.
veg out.
Right. So
Um,
when the home theater is ready to go, what normally happens in the living room since you have this amazing setup in your theater now?
nothing.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, we literally have the 85-inch Hisense that we rarely use.
Yeah.
Um, but we're hoping to get more use out of it. Where the entertainment stand that's in there in the theater room is going in to the living room, and we're
Oh.
finally wall mounting the Hisense.
Mhm.
Not this weekend or like whenever, but like that's on the agenda.
Yeah.
But the Hisense will fit on top of the entertainment stand, so that's going in there. The dresser that we had to kind of use in the meantime for the Hisense, because the stand is so wide on the Hisense, that's going back in the bedroom finally.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're gonna like basically kind of switch some things around there, but hopefully it'll get more use. I know we were watching stuff like Modern Family. We watch all of Modern Family pretty much out in the family or the family room, living room, whatever. Um, you have a visitor.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and a cat. Or no, that's a dog.
It's a dog.
That's a dog. But what is it? My wife hates first world problems. Hates my first world problems. I bought a sofa baton and couldn't configure it properly, and yeah, it was the worst thing ever. What's funny is I have the sofa baton X1X or X1S. Sorry, um, and I also just recently got the Arvolution, and the Arvolution isn't on the list of uh devices in the sofa baton, so I had to add. There's the model number is like the in the sofa baton is the 09090 something like that. So I added that and I remapped all the buttons
Mm.
for that. So finally I have everything working again on the sofa baton. But yeah, it's that thing can take a little while to get kind of acclimated to programming. However, what I
Yeah.
will say is coming from Logitech Harmony many years ago, this is like a night and day difference. I just wish there was a computer app or something,
Oh,
because you can only use your phone or your iPad. And I love having like a Mac or PC app on my laptop. I
yep.
just feel like I got more screen real estate. It'd be kind of like trying to do REW on your phone or on your tablet. It's like doable. Um, but yeah, I haven't. What's funny is I have not had problems turning on my LG C1.
Mm.
I did have to really play around with the delay on it, because especially when you first turn it on, the C1 will have like you need to give it like 6 to 7 seconds before you could like tell it what input you want to have it on. Um,
Whoa.
yeah, yeah, because it will. I mean, it'll come up, but like if you try to change the input in that time, it'll say loading the web interface or whatever.
Mm.
Um, but and honestly, like once it's on, you don't have to worry about it. But the problem is you can't tell the sofa baton what state something is going to be in after the fact. Like you have to basically set it up, or the way I've set it up at least is that every device is turned on from everything being off. So I never have that
Right.
problem. Honestly, hitting one button to switch everything over and waiting 5 seconds for the input to switch over on the C1, which is honestly only a problem when I'm like playing a PC, or not a problem, is only a thing when I'm playing like PC or Xbox, because everything else is routed through the receiver, right?
Right.
So then you don't have to change the input on the TV. But
Right.
yeah, I put like a 5 to 6 second delay from like for certain things
Mhm.
just to make sure. But other than that, it's uh yeah, it's pretty it took a
But
little
even
while.
then, yeah, nowadays, 5 or 6 second delay is a lifetime. You want
Yeah.
everything to happen immediately.
Yeah. Well, I have a like a hierarchy of the way I turn things on manually anyway. So it's like LGC1, like 1 to 2 seconds later, receiver, and then I wait for the display to pop up with like a no signal thing, and then I turn the thing on. Yeah, 5 seconds, huh? First world problem. Yeah,
I
I
know.
mean, God, having to wait 5 seconds. But no, I think going back to it being much more convenient to just press one button instead of having,
Yeah.
the 4 or 5 remotes that I typically have out
Right.
on the little Valencia tray. It's like, oh God, yeah. It's like this one does that, this one does that.
Mhm.
But yeah, all universal remotes like the Logitech Harmony have always needed time to adjust to their kind of little quirks and idiosyncrasies because they're all different,
Mhm.
and you have to kind of readjust your way of thinking. I'm like an old school guy where I just want all the remotes, but I also like the cleanliness and the ease of use of just one single remote, just
Yeah.
turning everything on. And I like that my wife can actually go in there and use the stuff if I'm like asleep or working on a video or something. And she doesn't have to come get me and try to be like, I have to like write her a manual on how to turn everything on. It's like, I don't want that shouldn't be like that
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
people. And that's why things like Control 4, even though as overly priced, I don't know if they're overly priced, they're very expensive.
Mhm.
Um, that's why things like that are very popular because the ease of use.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I went really off topic there. Um, and yeah, we have some
In
questions.
my community post talking about this live stream coming up, I said we're definitely gonna go on tangents, so
Yeah. We do
people should
anyway,
be used
right?
to it by now.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, we're about 17 minutes in. What do you say we actually get to answering
Oh,
questions?
yeah. Oh, in just a
Um,
couple minutes though, just so I know, there's probably gonna be an alarm that goes off because I need to check into my flight.
oh yeah.
So,
Do that, man. You got to.
yeah, I'm just
You got to.
forewarning you.
Is it Southwest?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you gotta get in that boarding zone, man. Get in one of those
Oh,
early
yeah.
zones.
Yeah.
But all right, man. So kicking off hot with this question. What is your top movie for sound on a 4K player? I I have this is a really hard one to kind of narrow down because like we listen to so much, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna get so many differing opinions. I I really have a hard time with this one because I've probably listened to multiple scenes from Ready Player One so many times,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, as far as sound design, sound mix, um, everything, it's just sublime. Like everything is sublime about it. Like it's so well done. There's not anything in it that really you go, yeah, they could have, did that a little better. Unfortunately, like, some other movies don't fare the same, but I'm gonna go against the grain and say that the one movie that I tend to go to and one scene that I tend to go to more often than not, as of late, over the past couple years, is the ship crash or the car crash scene in Blade Runner 2049. Not the opening sequence that everybody plays because it's just bass, bass, bass. Like that's cool if you want to show off like your subwoofers. It's not a great demo. Like
Yeah.
I'll just state that as my opinion. It's not a great demo. It's annoying, is what it is. Um,
Right.
however, there's so much dynamics in that scene where Ryan Gosling's character is flying the car and like it gets shot and it like goes down or whatever. That whole scene with the bombs going off the mortars, there's just so much like going on, but it's all very tight and separate and like there's a lot that's in there, but there's also a lot that's not. There's not a whole lot of extra fluff in that. What I like
Mhm.
about it is how kind of raw and real it feels because they didn't add a shit ton of music. They didn't add there's not like 8 million sound effects going on. It's not a Michael Bay movie. there's just it's like so clean and so like articulate. That's the word I'm looking for. That's the one scene I always go to. And I've demoed it for a few family members, and I always have to preface this like, you okay with like seeing body parts kind of fly? Like a leg gets like,
Right.
blown off and stuff. So yeah, I would say that's probably my go-to in terms of sound. And the video's not bad either. Video's pretty good. The HDR is but that was intended. So
Right.
what about you?
Honestly, yeah, I'm gonna kind of go with as of late also. Um, I'm gonna make a video about this, but here's a preview for all you attending this live stream right now. So you get front row seats. Um, I just a couple days ago, I watched Drive because I just got it on 4K Blu-ray last week, and goodness, I mean, it is slowly paced, but when things go down, I mean that's kind of like one of my go-tos as far as like how how can sound become like its own character or at least just really bring me into the story? Because yeah, there's lots of scenes that are just talking, or there's several shots where it's just trained on Ryan Gosling for like 3, 4 seconds before he actually says anything. So, because it's just his personality in that movie, right? That's just the character. But man, like the car chase scene, when the father that gets out of jail, they, go to that pawn shop, and I mean, spoilers if you haven't seen it, but somebody gets shot, and there's, like 3 or 4 gunshots. Those gunshots were startling, because it's just so quiet otherwise. So, like, that dynamic where it's, like, just a quiet little day, you kinda hear birds chirping, and then bam, bam, you hear those gunshots. So, it was very good, and the Atmos was great. In the very first scene where he's taking some random people and trying to evade the police, there's a point in the first scene where he goes underneath an overpass, just kind of hides there. And yeah, the helicopter, it's like the quintessential reason you get an Atmos system is because you want to hear a helicopter above you. And that's part of the scene is exactly that. In fact, I even turned off my bed layer speakers just to see how much was coming out of
Yeah,
just the height channels, and it was all height channel. There wasn't anything in the bed layer or in the ear level speakers as far as the helicopter goes. So it was just all
that's
helicopter up
awesome.
there. And yeah, it sounded like it was directly above me, as if I was waiting in a car, waiting for that helicopter to go away. So yeah, that's that's got an amazing soundtrack, but it's not constant. So I guess another maybe constant really good mix with Atmos would be Baby Driver, because you've got the action plus the music. Um, and in Drive, the music is fantastic in that too. The
Yeah.
music is like its own character. There are so many shots in Drive where it's just music. It's like a
Mhm.
music video. You can't hear anything else but the music, and it's just pumping hard. So yeah, I'm just gushing over that right now since I just saw it a couple days ago.
I've never
Um,
seen it, so
oh,
I need to add it to the list of
it's
uh,
pretty violent. I mean, I don't,
uh
I know you don't really care
I love
about
violence.
violence, but it is. First time I saw it.
In movies. Sorry, I love violence in movies. I realized what I said. Like that's I can watch violence in movies all day long, but
Right, right,
real
right.
violence, no thanks.
Yeah. First time I saw Drive, I was it was startling, some of the violence in it. But I mean, it's just once I saw the first scene like that, I was like, oh,
This is
we're gonna go there. Okay,
yeah,
so it kind of set the tone.
yeah,
So
yeah,
the rest wasn't as surprising, but still, it was like, ugh, little made
yeah,
me squirm a little bit. But another one I want to comment on, just as like as far as sound mixing and just the effect that sound can have. I'm gonna go back to an oldie but a goodie. Akira. Akira. There are so many points throughout Akira where the sound just kind of goes away. It just kind of fades out, and you just see like a singular character, and all you hear is that character's dialogue, and there's like reverb in their voice. There's also some other spots where it's like chaos, chaos, chaos. And then again, it just kind of fades out and it's just silent as somebody's like touching down on
yeah.
like the ground or something. So yeah, I mean it's not like the most bombastic Atmos mix you've ever heard, but it's just as far as the effect audio can have. I really recommend Akira if you haven't seen it or if you haven't watched it in a long time.
Yeah, I think there's a tendency for all of us kind of home theater heads to just want bombastic all the time, and I've kind of gotten to a point where I want subtlety. Like I really like when something is subtle, like it's so well done that you have to think about it. Where you're like, wait,
Mhm.
wait, wait, what just happened? Like those are the moments that I love because it kind of showcases, I think, what like home theater is really about, and that's bringing you into a movie so much that you forget that you're watching a movie, or that you
Yeah.
forget you're listening to a sound. Like when it's that impactful and engaging,
Mhm.
then yeah, it's really well done. I think, something like Ready Player One, the race scene is cool,
Mhm.
but like it's honestly not my go-to when someone comes over because it's
Right.
that you kind of got to build up to that, especially if someone's not used to this type of
Right.
thing, like, I love my in-laws, but they're in their 70s, I kind
Yeah.
of go, you guys seen A Quiet Place? And I'll play the scene where, she's trying to hide in the basement and the thing is,
Mhm.
like that's kind of cool. And but I love the subtle things in movies. And I think that we have a tendency, a lot of us, to just go Top Gun Maverick, the bombing run. Okay, let's play that. And
Right.
honestly, like again, it's cool. And when you're at a show or something, yeah, they're gonna play those.
Yeah.
But you kind of, for me, I like to kind of pare it back a little bit and just go, oh, there's like you hear like the overheads, like where it actually sounds like there's thunder happening off in the distance, like all the way back here.
Mhm.
You don't get that when you're balls to the wall going 88 miles per hour,
Right.
trying to, get your flux capacitor, engaged.
Right.
And King Kong's like, chasing after you and you just pass the T-Rex, like there's so much going
Mhm.
on in that. I think it's hard for people to kind of parse everything they're hearing, especially in one go.
Right.
Whereas, like, we've heard it a million times. I'm like, I know that this part there's going to be glass breaking behind you to the rear,
Right.
back right, and it's like someone's not gonna like what? How do you even
Right.
how do you even understand what's going on right now? Um, but yeah, that's the get off my soapbox there. Go for subtlety. Look for subtle moments in movies that you maybe wouldn't necessarily think might be a great showpiece. Um,
I like subtle realism too, especially when it comes with gunshots in Oh, hey, Kevin Gardner.
yeah, hello, Kevin. Welcome. Also, Medieval is here from Lansing, Michigan. Thank you for stopping by, guys. Appreciate it.
Hello.
We're just chatting about our favorite 4K demos and why you shouldn't use Top Gun Maverick. I'm kidding. You can use whatever you want.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like, another oldie but goodie, The Way of the Gun with
Mm,
Benicio del Toro and Ryan Philippe. Um,
it's Felipe.
there's a
Thank you, but
Oh, it is Felipe?
I think it's Felipe,
Philippi.
the guy from that one movie.
Yeah. There's a scene in The Way of the Gun in which someone is shooting from a very far distance, and you hear the impact of where the bullet hits first, and then you hear the gunshot in the distance.
I love that.
But that also happens in The Accountant with Ben Affleck. There's a couple scenes like that where, or no, that just that one scene where he's on the farm and he's got that gigantic rifle. But yeah, you hear the glass explode first, and then in the distance.
It's so
So
cool.
I love subtle realism like that too. It gets me every time.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Moving on. This is talking about violence. Why is Elon so violent?
Well, this in particular, I went to punch the camera because you said something along the lines of "We're gonna hit that," or just hit it.
Yeah.
Something,
And you
something,
were
something.
backing it up with a
And I was
visual.
like, "Just hit it."
Yeah. So
So that's why
but yeah,
A7 LAS 83.
yeah. You don't want to mess with Elon. We've never met in person, and he's threatened me many times if we did. So we don't do it. We don't. We also live on opposite coasts, so it's kind of hard to run into each other when we go to like a
Yeah.
you
Grocery
know
store.
grocery store or a Kroger or Albertsons or whatever. Do they still have Albertsons out there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. It's the worst grocery store ever. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see. Well, we're gonna ask it. I don't know if Elon will oblige, but Elon, could you play something for us on the piano in the back? That wouldn't
Maybe.
get us copyright strucken.
Oh, well, in that case, no.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
You just go back there like,
maybe
well,
later, maybe
Halloween.
towards the end.
Yeah, we'll serenade you at the end, Juan, if you stick around. If you're not here though, sorry.
You can hear it on the podcast.
Yeah,
Or
wherever podcasts are
watch
available.
watch the stream on demand.
Hey, somebody said, "Hey, Nicholas is here from Melbourne, Australia."
G'day.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the stereotypical good day. You already well, only one person can do it per stream. All
Yeah,
right,
because over there it should already be Wednesday. If
that's
I'm
pretty
not
late.
mistaken.
It's pretty late. All right, let's see here. This is kind of a longer question, right? He had some statements after that I want to also highlight here. So
Okay.
he asked, you know what? I think we went over this last time. Is it George? Is it? I can't
Jorge?
remember. Jorge. Regardless, thank you
Jorge?
for stopping by and asking a question. We appreciate it. He says, "Hi. Do you consider that in a real world, do we realistically need more than what is offered for home theater today? I think that we have far more. I'm sorry, adding things. I think that we have more than we really need. Your thoughts?" Then he goes on to say, "The industry is creating necessities that in most cases we don't really need. How far can we go?" I think this is a really, really good question, right? Because as technology like progresses and becomes better and better, there are inevitably things that can be done through, let's say, automation or just through advances in technology that were not available previously. I'm mainly looking at like room correction, things like
Yeah.
that. Uh, However, there is a tendency for this industry in particular, which is a business, and they're in the business to make money, to push new things on us all the time. Do we necessarily need those things? No, I don't think so. Like, I don't really think 8K, outside of a few use cases, has a place in many home theaters, if I'm just being
Mhm.
honest. It is purely for marketing. It's ticking a box. It's saying, hey, we put 8K on the box there. I think that really, focusing on providing a better 4K experience, enhancing the technology that's already there through, mini LED, micro LED, things like that, things that have actual tangible benefits that we can see with our own eyes, right? Like we all know, like when LCDs first came out, they were awful. They didn't have like, full backlights or anything or like arrays. They were literally all pretty much all edge lit.
Mhm.
The blooming was ridiculous. The black levels were non-existent. Everything was gray. We've
Right.
come a really long way. But we have OLED. We had plasmas back then. So there's always something, like it always seems like there's something better right around the corner. Like we're always on the cusp of some kind of crazy new thing. And sometimes it takes years, right? Like I remember seeing the little OLED Sony portable Blu-ray players that were $2,500 for like a little like 9-inch like OLED screen.
Right.
And then now, we have 83 inches, like 83-inch screens, and I'm complaining that they're $5,000 when, 10 years ago, you couldn't even get that. But yeah, I think that there are things that are just offered that we just simply don't need, but there are people that find value in it. And I think that, and not to try to play to any like particular brand or anything or say, hey, I'm saying this so like I can work with this brand. It's all bullshit. Like I'm just saying what I feel, that as I've gotten older, I do find value in things that reduce the amount of time that I have to do something. Right? Like I'd rather pay a little bit more money so I never have to, like I may not have to deal with this. It's kind of like I may not have the time to calibrate my TV, but I don't mind paying someone $600-$700 to come and calibrate my TV. It's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But like a professional that knows what they're doing, they're going to do a better job than I could do, even though I'm an enthusiast. So it's like you have to kind of determine what is, what you value. Now, if you're talking about some, I might be getting some hot water. I don't care. If you're talking about something like a Mad VR or a Lumagen with all this HDR tone mapping stuff, can be very important for some projectors. I think a lot of these companies are really kind of overstating what they're doing to sell their product.
Yeah.
I've seen it in person, and I don't like. Most of the time I'm like, okay, you're paying an exuberant amount of money for a picture that you may see a little more detail there. Okay,
True.
Like what? I don't like. That's the stuff that I'm like, really? You $14,000 for this device? Come on, guys.
That's how much it costs?
I think the Mad VR NV Extreme or something like that, it's like 13.5. Something crazy like that.
Because I mean that's really all it does is just make your picture better, right? It's just one small fraction of the totality of home theater. So
Yeah.
like I could justify spending a couple $100 if it's going to improve my picture quality more than just whatever is built into my AVR and TV. But that much just to improve my picture quality?
I actually think
I
that,
mean,
yeah, the new one is 16,000.
dude.
I think it looks like it's hard to tell because like I'm looking at Audio Advice's website, and let me see, if I select the model, this is the new NV Extreme Mark II. Yeah, $15,995.
Is it
16 grand for a video processor. That's its sole purpose.
exactly?
Yes.
Does it support like 8K?
Let me see. Yeah. 4K, 5K, 8K upscaling and sharpening. HDR dynamic tone mapping, instant aspect ratio. I can't even talk. Ratio. They spelled it Ratian, which is what threw me. I was like, what? Tone detection. Like there's.
I could see like, to me personally, the only use case scenario would be for calibrating a movie theater screen because it is so big and you're going to have at least something a little extra to make something that large
Right.
look really, really good.
Yeah.
But if we're just talking about an LG TV, I don't think there's, I mean, yeah, that would be pretty silly to use it with an LG. It's mostly used for projectors though, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
And it normally it's paired with really expensive projectors, $17,000 projectors, $20,000 projectors. for things like using a panomorph lens, or mapping everything to a 235 screen or something. If like you're one of those people that just wants that uh you know 235 to 1 aspect ratio on your screen, so you the 20 by 9 21 by 9 screen, it says 16 by 9. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's used for a lot of that. And apparently it does a really good job. I've seen it in action, but
Yeah.
I never saw $16,000 in action. Like,
Yeah.
it's again, it's a luxury product, but I think yeah, it's not being sold as like, you put this with your TV. I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um
Because I can see spending a lot, like, say, for a trim off. I still don't
I yeah,
I still can't justify 18 grand or 17 grand, but I do see value in being able to more easily perform room correction with their, like, insanely good room correction that's built into their,
right.
units. Plus, it it's affecting up to 20 speakers if you have the altitude 16, or 32 speakers. So I can see the value in that, because put that much if you spend that much for tons of speakers, you're going to want something that can handle all those speakers and put sound in the right place
Right.
when it needs to be. But 16,000 for just video? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I don't yeah. Oh, AA is here. Good evening, gents. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. Appreciate it.
Good evening.
Yeah, see, so this is another thing too. I think and you have to correct me if I'm wrong. He says, I think Jeremy, and I think he's talking about Tech Enthusiasm, said that the
Mhm.
Envy helps the less expensive projectors much more than the expensive ones. And I think that may be true, but also is the question I always pose to people that are trying to say, is it worth it? And I was like, I'm always like, is that $16,000 better spent somewhere else?
Mhm.
Typically, depending on your level of your theater, like mine, yes, hell yes. Don't spend 16 grand on a Mad VR that's probably gonna get replaced with a new model next year or in a couple years.
Yeah.
Put that 16 grand towards acoustic treatments, or acoustic treatments and better speakers, or maybe
Yeah.
better subs or bass traps, or there's a multitude of things that you could do to help out your system. Pay for a professional video calibration, you know, and see if you even need it. Like, if you have a TV, first of all, probably not. Like, even like a really, like one of those 95-inch or 94-inch LG
Mhm.
OLEDs,
Mhm.
they could just do with a great, like a professional calibration, and you're kind of done. You don't with a lot of this stuff, unless you're really into like fine tuning every little aspect of your picture quality.
Mhm.
The LG's tone mapping is perfectly fine. It's really this like the Mad VR and Lumagen and things like that. Their tone
Mhm.
mapping really comes into play on projectors that just don't have, they can't hit the high nits that a lot of these
Right.
HDR movies are trying to hit, right?
Yeah.
So they need help in that regard, because there's so much dynamic range that is kind of being squished
Mhm.
down into, like, let's say, I don't know what projectors typically hit these days, but let's say, I know for a while it was like 100 nits, but I think it's double that or triple that now. It's like 200-300 nits.
Mhm.
Um, might be a little more. Don't quote me on that, but they need help in
Well,
kind of getting all of that.
yeah. Because with the Mad VR screens that you've seen, or at least screens that are using, or home theaters that are using Mad VR,
Mhm.
does it take, like, would it be able to take a lesser expensive projector that needs help and make it look almost as if you're looking at an OLED TV? Is that what it's trying to
I
do?
mean, a pro
Because it
like a
still looks like a projected image, right?
right. Like, you'll never get, like, the OLED black levels out of a projector. You can get close with like a $30,000 projector or one of the Christie projectors, right? Like, but you're never going to get to that level. It's just not possible. It can unlock, like, it has a full like 3D and 1D LUT calibration option for video, which some projectors, cheaper projectors, may not have. So you have more flexibility. They did finally add a new, like, basically a pass-through port, because people were complaining that the input latency for gaming is, it makes it unusable for gaming. I wouldn't use.
Yeah.
I honestly, even with the game mode, something like Lumigen or like a bad VR, you're adding extra latency on top of a projector, which already, a lot of projectors already have pretty bad input latency for gaming. So if you're gonna game on it, I would say look somewhere. don't do Mad VR. But yeah, I think it can improve that for sure. But again, you could probably buy a $16,000 projector and get massively better image quality than just this. I'm speculating here because I don't have one. So again, but I'm just, we're kind of I'm talking about, where does that, like, where is that money like best spent in your system? And more often than not, I don't think that a video processor, especially with a TV, if you got a TV, just don't buy into the marketing. It is a lot of marketing stuff.
Oh yeah,
a lot of marketing stuff. They're really pushing like their motion interpolation too, which I'm just like not a fan of. Just
to make it smoother when it shouldn't be.
Yeah, to reduce judder, and I'm just like,
that's cinema, dude.
And every time I see it, I'm like, it looks so bad. They're like, it's so much better than what's on a TV though, and I'm like, yeah, but it still looks bad. So,
looks off.
When you go to someone's theater and they have like $150,000 worth of equipment and it has that effect on it, it just diminishes the entire experience to me. I'm just like, well, I'm not taking you seriously now, dude. Like, I can't. Hey, you want to come over for a movie night? Nah, I'm good. I got things going on.
I question your motives.
Yeah, but some people don't even know that. Like, some people don't know about it. Which is another thing too. There are things that people focus on, and things that people don't focus on. Some people are more about the audio, which is fine. Some people are more about the video, which is also fine. And I'm like, I care about both, I would say, equally. Although I do I'm like, good audio to me is like more than 50% of the experience. It's more like 60-70%. Because I can watch like a shitty looking like transfer, unless it's James Cameron. But if the audio's good, I'm fine. But if it's like, the audio's really bad, then yeah, like the calibration's off, or like there's like some crazy room resonances, or the center channel like just sounds like it's in a box. Yeah. But we got a super chat. Holy shit. Got a super chat and a curse. I cussed. Thank you, Kevin Gardner. Thank you so much. Here's a couple sodas for you too. Thanks for everything, and wishing you all the best, Kevin. Well, I wish you all the best, Kevin. I didn't mean to say it like that when I read your. He's signing it as Kevin, and I was like, saying he was talking to us. But thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Kevin has been a long supporter of my channel. He's been there like pretty much since day one, haven't you, Kevin? You've been like very supportive and always like commenting and stuff. Send me emails, say, hey, I haven't heard from you or Trish in a while. Like, how are things going? And yeah, finally, like, feels good to be on the other side of all the Audio Advice Live, Audioholic stuff, and like actually working on stuff for my channel. Like, almost don't know how to feel. It feels good. It does feel really good, because it's like
this new feeling I feel.
It is. It's a weird thing when you guys know, when if you've ever worked for someone else and then you go back to working for yourself, or like you do freelance stuff, doing stuff for yourself is so much easier, because you don't have to wait for that approval. It's so
your own boss, man.
I know, and as good as the opportunities can be, sometimes you just got to say, I'm not happy doing this, and if you have the option to step away, that's normally the best if your heart's not in it. So
Mhm.
anyway, thank you again, Kevin. I really appreciate it. I wanted to highlight his super chat
Yeah.
before.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you so much. All right, so we just getting some questions. Let's see here. So Callian FX asks, I have a Denon 7.2 AVR in my living room. What's your opinion? Should I go with 5.1.2 or 7.2? I've been in a similar situation. Um, we kind of just talked about this last week, didn't we?
We touched on it a little bit.
Yeah. So I had the 5.1.2. I ended up going back down to a 7.2. Sounded great, but I was missing that height information. I after 6 months I ended up going back to 5.1.2. My opinion is if you've never had 5.1.2, then if you can swing it and do it, I would.
Yeah.
Typically at 5 bed channels, like, your front 3 and your side surrounds are more than enough for most people, depending on your space, obviously.
Mhm.
Um, 5 is a great, like, place to be for your bed channels. 7, always a good place to be, but, like, you have to you have a similar receiver that I used to have, it sounds like, where you have to make the choice between, do I go with, 7.2 or 5.1.2? So you have to make that choice. I will say I missed the height channels. I didn't really miss the back surrounds when I
Yeah.
went back. Now, in my current theater with the 1.4, yeah, I want everything. I want
Mhm.
my cake and I want to eat it too. Like,
Right.
once you kind of have that, you really don't want to have to downgrade. Like, I'm
Yeah.
kind of like at the point where I'm like, this is enough. I really don't know that I'd want to go front wides. I'd have to get a
Mhm.
whole new receiver. I'd have to, look at what's like where I could put them. I can't really get them at a good angle that they need to be. So I don't know uh how well that would work out. But yeah,
Yeah.
my opinion, my thoughts on that, 5.1.2. Your thoughts, Elon?
Great.
Great.
Honestly, I agree. Um, yeah, that's honestly what I would do too. Just because, yeah, like you said, you're missing something, and you had to go back to it. So, yeah, having that audio coming at you from above is just a different experience than when Atmos wasn't even a thing yet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really weird to think about like how far we've come with that in
Yeah.
spatial audio. So yeah, hopefully that answers your questions there or question. Joseph McDermott, welcome. He asked, have you guys ever had a hearing test done? I have. It's been a while, but I have. What about you?
Not like a professional one or like one by an ear doctor. Or just as a
Yeah.
kid. As a kid, yeah, like you would have regular hearing tests or whatever, where you go in that little,
Booth.
trailer
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
do the hand Yes, I hear it. No, I don't.
Yeah.
But I do have a tone generator on my phone. Obviously, it doesn't work with, you know, subsonic frequencies. But as far as the higher frequencies, it is nice to know, or it is nice to kind of check and make sure I can still at least hear, you know, 16 some odd kilohertz.
Yeah.
um, but I mean, yeah, because I really don't. Unfortunately, I don't have the best hearing when it comes to high frequencies. And I think that has to do with being a swimmer in high school, swimming
Mm.
and water polo. I think just diving in, especially during swim season, and having that difference in pressure over and over and over, just kind of messed with my hearing a little bit. Um, And plus, like, yeah, like I've perforated my eardrum a couple times throughout my lifetime, and I'm sure that hasn't helped with
Right.
being able, cont being able to continue to hear high frequencies. It probably knocked it down a little bit, probably the last time that I perforated my eardrum. But, but at the same time, having gone to audio engineering school, that really, um, I mean, being able to hear high frequencies or not, that really trained my brain into being able to pick out, because I went for an emphasis on music mixing.
Mhm.
So to be able to pick out anomalies within a certain frequency range that shouldn't be there, or just maybe there's like a little pop during the recording, little anomalies like that. My brain has been trained to recognize those things. So that has
Yeah.
definitely helped and translated well into being able to pick out certain anomalies and certain things within a home theater mix, whether that be Dolby Atmos or whatever. So,
Yeah. I'd be curious to see what my current hearing loss is. I'm pretty sure like I can hear so normally when I do it may be I mean, always I always say don't be that guy that's like, "Oh, I'm not wearing earplugs." Wear If you go to a
oh,
concert, wear earplugs. If you're doing test tones for extended periods of time, even if they're not very loud,
mhm,
wear earplugs.
yeah,
When I do calibrations, when audio calibrations, um, I'm wearing earplugs the whole time. I'm
because it's
doing
reference level.
yeah, I'm doing sweeps at reference level over and over again.
Mhm,
I'm not subjecting my ears to that. When I mow the yard, I wear earplugs. Like I don't take any chances because I want to retain the hearing that I have left.
yeah.
I played drums in a band for many years without hearing protection when I was younger, young and stupid. I have tinnitus in both my ears.
Mhm,
In a really quiet room, it's uncomfortable.
yeah.
Uh, I've gotten used to it over the years. It's actually gotten better, but I'm pretty sure that anything past maybe 14K, I probably can't hear much
Mhm,
of. I can still hear it a little bit. Like if I do like a test tone generator, I can normally hear some stuff up till about 16K, but
yeah.
it goes dead silent after that for me.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously as you get older, let's say you start with perfect hearing as a kid, at 20,000 or maybe 20, like, you can hear a little bit above that or a little below that, whatever. Women typically have higher uh like hearing, like so they're up in like a 22, 24,000, 24 kilohertz range,
Mhm,
um but like all degrades over time. So like as you get older, your hearing naturally starts to go. It's kind of like as you get older, most of the time your eyesight's going to start to diminish at some point.
yeah.
I just started early with mine. Um but no, yeah, I'd be curious. I'd also be curious to see if they're like you're going to need hearing aids at some point, which
Possibly.
probably wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It would probably make my wife happy that I wouldn't have to turn movies up so loud. Um But, but yeah, I typically don't listen at reference level ever.
Oh,
Um,
no way.
no, I will occasionally crank things up very briefly to test out a certain part, but it's never to the level of like, oh God, that's painful. It's more like, okay, I want to like, is this immersive? How does this sound if I go, minus, 7 dB or -5 or something like that for like John Wick Chapter 3 with the
Mhm.
shotgun, scenes just to get that visceral impact. And then I'm like, okay, this is annoying. I'll turn it back down,
Yeah.
you know? Um, yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to see.
Yeah,
But
like, um sorry, were you
no, no, no. I was looking at a question. I was looking at
oh.
comments because I was over on the starred section of StreamYard.
I mean, yeah, I'm in your same boat. I use ear protection all the time. And for those of you watching, you should too.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
don't wanna
mean,
be that guy. Yeah.
I even use it when I vacuum the house.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm that guy because yeah, like these ears are literally my career, and I want to
Yep.
protect them at all costs. Just last month, I was at a reggae festival, and it's an outdoor concert,
Mhm.
and obviously they're going to be blasting the music super loud, like any outdoor concert. And I had earplugs in, and it just the thought occurred to me. I'm like, huh, this level of this SPL is like I'm listening to the music normally.
Mhm.
Like, it was just like it was totally fine. I had earplugs in, and it was just like I was listening to it at a normal volume. So, like, if I took the earplugs out, it would be blisteringly loud.
Yeah.
So why would I wanna listen to why would I wanna subject myself to that when I could just put earplugs in and it sounds totally fine? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just at that age now where I'm like, I don't need to do that. I I would rather hear it as if it's normal instead of just that quintessential, like, ear-piercing SPL level.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me anymore.
It
But
doesn't,
yeah.
and, the first time I went to a concert and wore earplugs, I was sold because I didn't leave. 1, I took the earplugs out, and it was like, "I feel great, and I don't have a headache,"
Mhm,
and I didn't have my ears weren't ringing for 2 or 3 days after, like when I saw Metallica in '98.
mhm.
It was ridiculously loud, and I was like, "I get it, it's rock, it's metal, whatever, but come on, like, that's" you know, even the musicians wear earplugs, and yeah, I mean, most of them have tinnitus and stuff, hearing loss, but,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I think, I'm an advocate for earplugs, so if an earplug brand ever was like, "Hey, we have these new things, and we're wondering if you wanna sponsor." Yes, because it's not talked about enough, and I don't care what people say anymore. Protect your hearing, people.
Yeah.
You only get one set of ears, treat your ears like you would treat your back or your heart or something, like take care of it. Like don't,
Yeah.
try to take care of it. Um,
Yeah. What that was one big benefit of going to audio engineering school is that they had this company roll through.
mhm.
I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, unfortunately, but they rolled through and, took, molds of everybody's
Oh,
ears
for like custom in-ear
for
monitors.
custom yeah.
That's
So I've got some custom earplugs because what's cool about them
oh,
is that
earplugs, yeah.
they have, they had this little thing in it to where you can just have it be a completely, just like plug it up, or you can have filtered ones. So it just reduces the sound by 9 decibels, or you can have other filters that reduce it by 15 decibels.
Oh,
But the plug reduces it by 24 decibels. So like, yeah, if I ever go to a concert, I'm probably gonna take my custom earplugs to Cedia just in case, like, maybe some after party or something has some DJ blasting music super loud,
yeah,
so you always gotta be careful. But, yeah, if anyone has the chance to get custom
yeah,
earplugs, they're awesome because they really you can wear them like, all day because they're literally made to fit in your ear hole, in your ear canal.
yep,
So, it's great.
yeah. I think I always love the even the cheap like musicians earplugs that just reduce the like I think they call them heroes, the
Mm.
hi-fi heroes or something, and basically they just they attempted to attenuate everything evenly. So like it was just like reducing the volume instead of making things muffled.
Yeah,
And that's what I used to use for practice because I didn't want things to be muffled.
right.
Um, but I wanted to be able to like clearly hear things. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think we're boring people with earplug talk, but I don't know. We got 40 people in the chat. Some people are interested in this, I guess. Let's move on here.
Yeah.
CQ Films, I think I'm saying that right. Sony ES receivers are still limited to USA only. I don't want to live in a world. I don't want to live in a world without 360 spatial anymore. So he's talking about 360-degree spatial audio. Is it
Yeah.
worthwhile for me to import a 7000 ES to Australia using a voltage regulator? Currently using the RZ70, and I'm not that happy with placement of objects.
Ooh, RZ70. I mean,
Yeah, isn't that like a good,
yeah, I could have
really
sworn the
decent?
RZ70 was good. I haven't personally had the RZ70 to test, but yeah, that's interesting. That's kind of disappointing to
Yeah,
hear.
but I'm also like, could it be another issue? You know, if we're just spitballing here, could it be like speaker placement issue potentially?
Or
Um,
acoustic treatment.
yeah, like because I wouldn't.
Is it are I wonder if CQ Films is using Direct Live because Direct Live is built into the RZ70
True. Yeah,
because supposedly that's one of the best room corrections for general consumers out there.
yeah. I think my recommendation, even though it doesn't directly to tell, hey, get the 7000 ES. Um, See if there's another issue going on before you import something like that, because the last thing you want to do is spend all that money importing something and running into the exact same issue where you're like, I still don't like what I'm getting out of this. You may do
Exactly.
that and it be the exact same or similar experience. Um, Even with whatever Sony's running for room correction.
Mhm.
What happens if you turn off room correction if you're using it? What happens if you turn it on? Like
Right.
a lot of little things just to kind of, and you may have already done those. I'm not saying that you haven't. But before you spend all that money, it's really important to make sure everything, like you've done everything you can to get what you're after, including like you may need to relocate your height channels if you can. Um, you'd be surprised at how many people have really poorly placed height channels, and they think that Atmos is garbage. I've heard it
Mhm.
many times before, and it's like the angles are all wrong. Like they're not, like they're either too close to the sidewalls or too far in to really like inside the soundstage to really place the objects correctly in the space.
Right.
So having proper height channel placement is crucial to like getting the most out of it. Um, I followed Steven Smith's guide on his height placement, and it was game changing for me. It was
Mhm.
literally like a night and day difference, and I literally moved the height channels like 7-8 inches inward,
Right.
like kind of between, like almost between the front and the center, and that made all the difference. And then depending on what speakers you have, aim them like look at aiming them kind of in the crisscross pattern where it's like an X, like you're
Mhm.
um so like your top front right, if you're doing like 4 top front right, is actually aimed at the left side of the listening area,
Right.
and do the other one on the opposite on the top front left. All of those little things, like you'd be surprised. Again, I don't know if you've done all of these. um
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah.
Test.
Test.
Basic
I thought you were I
basically
thought I thought you were
basically
gonna
the
test to
moral
see
of
if
the
we could hear
story.
you. Yeah, I thought, "Can we hear him?" Um,
Yeah, the moral of the story is basically do some more testing first, because yeah, you might run into something that starts working for you.
Kevin brings up a very good point. So, you may have placement of speakers. I'm gonna gloss over this one because that's the point I wanted to bring up. Distance setting off, etc. Speaker cable polarity issues.
Hmm.
You will not believe how many systems I've calibrated where well, I don't wanna say how many systems. It's been like 4, but
Mhm.
the Atmos height channels, uh, come back as like polarity reversed. Like
Uh-oh.
it could be something with the wiring, or it could be the placement, and literally there you need to reverse them, and Odyssey will not pick it up. It will tell you
Right.
what happens is when I reverse them, Odyssey will actually tell me, "Hey, these are reversed." It's like, actually, no, according to my tests that I've done, that I trust, that I see with my own eyes, this is completely wrong.
Mhm.
This is flipped to where it should be. Like, you know, based on using the impulse response of the speaker, which doesn't lie. Like, it will tell you, you know, if it's if it's in like basically going the right way in terms of the
Right.
impulse response. So yeah, once I reversed them, it changed the sound of the height channels pretty. I don't want to say dramatically, but things were a lot more distinct, a lot more clear. Without, it's going to sound weird. They were distinct, more clear, without calling more attention to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Joel also brings up a very good point. May also be the content. Most aren't object based yet. Yeah, a lot of the Atmos stuff is hard coded. Unfortunately, not everything, but a lot. Excuse me. So that may be something to consider. It's really hard to pick something unless you're, very familiar with it,
Yeah.
you know, which is why we do use a lot of the same clips over and over again, because we just become familiar with how things sound and where they should be placed. Um, yeah. So hopefully, do you have anything to add to that,
Nope.
Yalin?
Moving on.
Moving on. All right. Clean Slate asked asked what's your opinions on front wides? I haven't experienced a system that utilizes them, but I'm thinking of adding them with my Denon 6700H. Have you ever used front wides, Elon?
Yes.
Cool. All right, moving on.
Moving on.
No, 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 no.
Um,
No, what was your experience going to front wides? Um,
well, in my little theater, um, the one thing that front wide seemed to do was give me a little bit more of a bass boost, which was in a good way. I guess just because I had that much more, sound hitting me on the ear level plane. So that definitely was interesting because I wasn't expecting that.
yeah,
It just felt a little bit more like kind of like what I would experience in a actual theater, an actual cinema. So I enjoyed it that way. But I mean, it is. I only had front wides because I wanted to test it out. Do I really need front wides in a theater small as mine? Not really.
yeah.
Um, but at the same time, after
Why not?
having experienced wides or front wides, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um, but again, it's getting better, but there are still a lot of Atmos mixes that don't utilize front wides at all.
yeah,
So it's just kind of this weird limbo area where it's like, yeah, it's really cool when you watch a movie that actually uses front wides,
yeah,
but there's only so many that actually use front wides. So you got to spend a lot of money just to get to that point to be able to support front wides.
hmm,
Is it really worth it? Because there's not a lot of content that supports them.
yeah,
So, but like I said, if it's like a long-term goal, yeah, I think it's worth it because it's only gonna get better. Um, you know, studio post-production studios are already, hip to the fact that, home theaters are getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
yeah,
So they're really starting to take that into consideration, and instead of mixing something in 7.1.4, they're most likely going to mix it in 7 or 9.1.6, and so on. So, yeah, I would say if you're planning on upgrading and keeping it that way for quite some time, then yes, it's worth it.
yeah. I think I've only heard front wides a handful of times. Um, like Elon said, it's hard to recommend at the current time because the content just does not support it a lot. And if you're not familiar, if you're sending Dolby Atmos and the Dolby Atmos track that you're sending doesn't support front wides, you'll just get silent speakers. There's no way to like add sound or up mix that into something. Yeah, if you use the DSU and up mix like a 5.1 or 7.1,
Mhm.
then yeah, you'll get some info there. But it's not discrete info. Yeah, I don't know, like I think again, it also depends on your space. It can increase the width of the front soundstage depending on the content. Uh,
Mhm.
but I've never heard anything like I did with Atmos where it was like, this is game changing. When I heard
Yeah.
like properly set up Atmos, I was like, I can't go back. This is it.
Mhm.
Like, whereas front wides is like, oh, okay. It's like, let's put
Yeah.
speakers in the floor. Why not? Like, like what's next?
Right.
It's like I need sound coming from below me. You know,
Yeah.
the depths of hell are calling upon me. It's like the voice of Satan comes through.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so yeah, I personally like. I mean, yeah, if you want to give it a shot, but just know going in that right now,
Yeah.
not gonna have the best of times with every single movie.
At least he already has one that an AVR that supports
Right,
it.
right. So there's no
Otherwise, I
upgrade
would
there. Yeah,
say it's probably not worth it if you need to get another receiver just to support front wides.
right, right. Perfect. I like your answer. You get $5.
Yay.
What? All right, we got another question from Jorge or George, whatever you want to go by. Purists in the analog world, aka stereo music, say that it's almost a sin to use, for example, a room correction like mini DSP in our systems to help with our rooms, but can it really be heard? So yes and no. There are I would not consider myself an audio purist. I'm not
Audiophile snob.
yeah, I'm not an audiophile. I like good sound.
Mhm.
But I think like there are people that really harp on that stuff, and that's their prerogative. They can do that. What I will say with like the mini DSP is a lot of people don't realize that the mini DSP will add a certain amount of delay to your subwoofers in terms of like it's going to be almost honestly it's damn near impossible to get your subs perfectly time aligned with your mains, like with
Mhm.
your other speakers because of that delay. And so you have to try to figure out how to, mitigate that as best you can, but you're never going to be able to get it 100% perfect. I mean, there are purists and audiophiles out there that believe subwoofers don't belong in a stereo configuration at all, like a 2-channel config,
Right.
you know? I don't think it's a sin. I think what uh, there's kind of like some carryover from like the old room correction systems that we
Yeah.
had early on that were just not very good. Um, and honestly, some of them, like if you don't know what you're doing, can still like make things worse. And I think that's really the crux of the whole problem with the room correction and why it's frowned upon by like purists and audiophiles is because it tries to do too much most of the time. Whereas, you want to EQ the room or the speakers for the room, but you don't want to EQ the speakers, if that makes sense. You don't want to take
Yeah.
out those tonal characteristics of the speakers because you paid all this money for them, right? That's why it's so popular for, people to correct up to like let's say 250 hertz or 500 hertz. Like the bass region is where typically things need the most help in a system. And after that is kind of where room correction starts EQing the speakers instead of trying to account for the room.
Yeah.
Um, so do I think that some of this stuff can be heard? You can absolutely hear the delay. of the subs when they don't hit. Like if you kind of need the experience of hearing like what a tightly aligned system sounds like. That's pretty much spot on. And then when those subs are, let's say in my system, they're 11 milliseconds too late. I could never get them closer than that. There's a difference. It does come at the expense of some like it's noticeable when you go from hearing that to something like a very tightly integrated sub with a system. And there's ways around that. I'm curious to see what, if any, delay adding an amp will bring to the system, because you're now adding another point where the like the pre-pro or the AVR has to send audio over to the amp over RCAs, right? And then now, okay, that's another point where like that's got to basically amplify the signal. But are we looking at any type of like audio delay? Just by adding it, because every time you add something to the chain, technically you increase the likelihood of latency being added as well.
Right.
But that could work in my favor, because now I may actually be able to get everything tightly aligned, so who knows? I'm curious to see. But yeah, I think, I don't know. What's your opinion? I feel like I talked too much on this already. So, isn't that the point?
But no, I mean, you're right. It's you gotta do some sort of room correction to treat the room, but not the speakers. You don't want to take out the sonic characteristics of the speakers, because a lot of people who are audio purists will spend thousands and thousands of dollars on the speakers alone. So you really want to make sure you're getting the most out of those speakers. But at the same time, you can buy $30,000 speakers, but they sound like shit because your room is shit. Or it's just not the most ideal room to be in. Especially if it's like some room with tile on the walls and hardwood floors where there's absolutely zero acoustic treatment to stop all the crazy reflections and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's I would. I mean, if you are trying to be a purist and deal with that kind of stuff, obviously you're probably going to try and do some sort of acoustic treatment first. But even then, I mean, or even just like towing in the speakers just a little bit, so your stereo image is just a little bit more pronounced and tighter. Um, yeah, it's I've heard people like, well, Joe and Tell, for example, like he was um, helping his cousin or somebody in the family with his 2-channel stereo setup, and they did some magic beans on it, towed in the speakers just a little bit, did a little bit of fine tuning, and he said it was night and day. It was so much better. And that's just one of those examples for just 2-channel stereo. So if you do it right, or if the room is right, or whatever, then I think it can vastly improve the situation. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm not in the camp where like I'm going to tell you no, don't ever, ever, ever use room correction or DSP with 2-channel stereo, because I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know your room. I don't know the situation. So there's so many factors involved. I say do whatever it takes to make them sound the best they possibly can sound,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't say no to everything. So
100% agree. Agreed.
there's no
Um,
no two rooms are ever the same.
no, they
So
aren't. And
it's silly.
you're always gonna get varying answers, right? Some people are like, don't do it. Other people are like, yeah, why not? I think,
Yeah.
again, going back, it's if you can get into tweaking, make some minor tweaks manually to things, I think you can get much better results from room correction.
Yeah.
It's the full auto method that you're like, eh,
Oh, for sure.
it's kind of like and I've always used this analogy before. It's kind of like when you get into calibration, there's like multiple tiers, right? There's like the auto method, which is like taking your car to a car, like one of these automated car washes,
Right.
right? It might be better. You might get some scratches on your paint to get, like depending on what you're like the kind of car wash you go to.
Mhm.
Um, but if you wash that car yourself, you kind of can mold the results to what you can make sure things are done the way that you want them done, right?
Yeah.
And then if you pay to have someone detail it, like you pay for an audio calibration, then like it's gonna like this person knows what they're doing,
Mhm.
and you're gonna get the most out of it, but you're gonna pay for it, but you're not gonna spend the time doing it. That's so
Right.
like there's just multiple levels, and I always try to get people to inch, ever so slightly towards that DIY enthusiast approach where it's like tweak some things, maybe think about getting a measurement microphone if you're serious about it. And,
Mhm.
look at some measurements. They won't solve all your issues, but they can kind of give you an idea of what is going on and what you can do to kind of help things along, Um, but also don't rely 100% on measurements either.
Oh, yeah.
I used to do that. And you know what?
Yeah.
It can measure fucking amazingly,
Right.
but then it sounds like absolute crap when you go to listen to it.
Yeah.
So just, you kind of got to know where to tweak things and when to say, okay, enough. I can't EQ this anymore. I don't need to boost this 12 dB, like don't boost anything 12 dB. Never do that. But anyway, moving on here. Siphonics says, you guys don't want that new Marantz integrated amp. I don't know if he's being sarcastic, but no, I do not.
No.
Doesn't interest me.
No.
Not into it's like a 2-channel thing, right? Like it's
It is. Yeah.
yeah. I don't
$15,000.
yeah, no, good. I don't I'm not like a stereo audiophile guy that listens to music or vinyl. Um, I don't know if I'll ever get back to doing that, like, or ever start doing that.
I mean, it's pretty.
So,
Obviously, they took a lot of time to build
sorry,
it.
I just want to highlight this. Best analogy I've heard: say no to auto car wash. Yes, always say no.
Yay.
Chemical guys or something else. No, uh, wash it yourself. Um, yeah, I mean that's 15 grand for that thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So worth it.
That's crazy. I've been around, hanging out with Gene De La Sala. He's definitely, I mean, Audioholics is the name of his channel, the name of his business, and everything.
Mhm.
And I've been around more hi-fi stuff than I could shake a stick at. I never thought I would. And
Right.
honestly, it's. I'll be honest with you guys. It's kind of lost on me when I hear a set of $30,000 speakers. I'm like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
Or like this Cambridge Evo 150. I'm like, I mean, it's cool, but I'm not hearing. I don't know what I'm hearing. I kind of feel, like where I'm so into home theater and multi-channel that I just part of me is like, I'm not going to listen to a stereo system. There's that part of me. And nothing against people that do. I don't think it's for me.
Yeah.
I don't think it's for me. Let's see, moving on. This is kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the Mad VR. Do those projectors even have Dolby Vision? There's only a
Just
few projectors that
yeah,
like
just the
ultra
really
short throws,
expensive
right?
ones.
Yeah. I think some ultra short throws have
Oh, yes.
Dolby Vision, but
Yeah.
those are kind of in a different. I don't think you would pair a Mad VR with an ultra short throw, in my opinion. Like I don't think
No.
that is a like typically if you're going ultra short throws because you have to.
Yeah.
Due to
Just 'cause
space
of
limitations or whatnot.
right,
Yeah.
right. There's a reason for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you're gonna take the time, then make sure and, or if you're gonna spend the money to have one that you actually have to mount on the ceiling or, whatever,
Yeah.
you might wanna get it.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
hey, look at that. We got a super chat.
Dang.
1999 from Oil Cooled. Thank you so much, Oil Cooled. Thank you. You're awesome. I'm going to highlight your previous question first because you did ask something else just about 7 minutes prior. I don't know if this is related, but let's
We'll
see.
find out.
We will. If you have your sofa against the back wall, TV on opposite wall, and room has 4 walls, not open concept, ignoring cost, what would sound better? It's a loaded question. Ambio Max with sub of choice or Theater Quad with SW5? And then his super chat question was, room has 4 walls, is 17 feet wide, 14 inches deep, and 9 inches high. Back of sofa is pushed against one of the 17-foot walls. TV on opposite wall. Ignoring cost, what would sound better? Ambio Max. So it's more detailed. It's a more detailed version of the question he asked. Theater Quad.
The sofa is pushed against one of the 17-foot walls.
Okay.
Huh.
Let me open SketchUp. No, we'll model out the whole room.
I mean, honestly, if a really good subwoofer can actually improve the rest of the sound. The video that I edited for my buddy Bill, when he was talking about the Mag Theatron speakers,
Mhm.
he has Emotiva Air Motive speakers, like budget. We're talking budget speakers, just like a couple $100 each kind of thing. And yet, when he added the Mag Theatron speakers that he was sent because he's now representing Mag Theatron in the United States, I mean, they're really, really expensive. They're basically like commercial grade. I mean, watered down just a little bit for the home theater experience, but basically, using the same technology they use in their commercial grade subwoofers. So these are insanely good subwoofers. And when he added just those subwoofers to his budget Air Motive speaker setup, he said the speakers themselves greatly improved as far as like placement and all that kind of stuff. But what's difficult about this question too is that the Ambio Max does not have rear satellite speakers.
Right. So this is just a straight up front channel or front sound bar. Like there's no discrete option for adding like speakers on the sides or the rear.
Right. Because it's supposedly, it just fires them off the side, and then technically that should hit you as if it sounds like it's coming from behind you. But
yeah, I mean it's an impressive soundbar, for sure. But if we look at the Theater Quad, basically it's 4 kind of tower looking thing. I've never actually seen this, to be honest with you.
Because
I've heard of it.
You're dealing with a situation where you're making sacrifices in both scenarios.
Right.
You're sacrificing the fact that you don't actually have physical speakers behind you when you're with the Ambio Max, but you can use whatever subwoofer you want, which is going to make things a lot better as far as just the overall presence or soundstage.
Yeah, because he was talking about pairing the Theater Quad, right, with the SW5 sub, which is like their wireless.
Because that's the only thing you can do, because the Theater Quad doesn't support any any subwoofer. You have to use a Sony subwoofer with it.
Yeah. So if we look at, I don't know if it'll even list the frequency response. That would be like what my question would be. List everything but probably. Because they're like, we don't want to tell you because we're not proud of this. I think, I mean, yeah, this is kind of a double, like this is really hard to determine. I think that, with this the theater quad, you do get that you get more separation, right? That's just like par for
Yeah.
the course because you're taking basically everything from the Ambio Max. You know, I'm not. I mean, I'm not talking literally here, but like you're taking all of these drivers and spreading them out over 4 speakers that you can now put throughout the room.
Mhm.
And I take it this would use Sony's like spatial audio technology, right,
Yes,
to map
it does.
everything.
Mhm.
So you're gonna get a much more enveloping sound from this, in my opinion, just from the way it's set up,
Mhm.
than over this. However, the ability to add whatever sub you want to the Sennheiser Ambio is going to mean that the bass you're gonna have much tighter, better bass because you
Yeah.
can select what you want instead of just going with this. Like the
Yeah.
the SW5, which I can't find the frequency response. Let me see if I could
Yeah, I don't think they list it.
somebody's had to have done I
Yeah. Honestly, it kinda comes down to if you would rather have that 3D bubble of sound,
yeah,
or do you want a more cinematic rumbling experience?
right, right.
So yeah, obviously with cinematic rumbling, Ambio Max all the way. If you want a better 3D bubble, Bravia Theater Quad all the way. Um, yeah, because the SW5 subwoofer does pretty well for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be
Yeah, I
able
mean,
to use like
it has
you could even have a PB16 Ultra
yeah,
with your Ambio Max.
yeah. And so you're limited to buy that SW5, which I believe is a 6-inch woofer. It has a 6-inch driver in it.
Mhm.
So not saying 6-inch drivers are awful, but you're not going to get the same level of output that you would get from a PB16 Ultra, or I mean, even if you were looking at a five to $700 sub, there's
Mhm.
subs that are just going to outperform, like wipe the floor with that
Oh yeah.
SW5
Yep.
for sure. He also added that also with the sofa pushed against the back wall, can you even use the theater quad rear speakers properly?
Yeah, because that's the whole thing about 360 spatial sound mapping
Hmm.
is that you can literally have the most bizarre setup possible, and it'll still make all the calculations necessary to still give you that 3D bubble.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So, will it be ideal? No, but
no.
again, you're already making a lot of compromises going with either one of these systems.
Mhm.
It really just depends. What are you after? Do you want that? Like, do you value that separation that you would get from the uh the theater quad, the Sony theater quad, and would it be worth sacrificing bass performance to get that like that, like basically surround sound, right? The better surround sound experience, or are you more about the bass, all about that bass, no treble? Are you more about, getting nice tight bass and being able to use whatever subwoofer you want? I think your answer to either of those questions, because obviously you can't have both,
Mhm.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
will determine which one you go with. But like Elon said, I think the whole point of the theater quad and Sony's spatial audio technology is to make it sound good wherever you can put those damn things.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't worry about that. It's more about those questions that you kind of have to ask yourself, like what do you want out of your system?
Yeah.
What's more important
What
to
do
you?
you prefer?
What
Mm.
do you want? Who are you? But thank you again for the super chat, Oil Cooled. I
Yes.
really, really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
That was awesome. Um, took me by surprise.
I know, right?
Took me by surprise. We're gonna end it there. No, I'm just kidding. Uh,
Let's
uh,
yeah, let's maybe try and do like some lightning
yeah, yeah. We're we're
round
we're,
at this
we're
point.
answering
Wow.
every question with a novel. All right, here we go. So this is gonna be an easy one. Will you guys have a show Thursday? This Thursday? No. Next Thursday?
No.
Possibly.
Yes,
Um,
possibly.
I'm gonna finally put out a poll and we'll see what they say. Right now it's kind of 50-50 on Elon's poll.
Yeah.
48% are saying keep it Tuesday, 52% are saying Thursday works. Um, so
Pretty
yeah,
close.
pretty good. Um, Van Gool asks, you notice the 2 Atmos speakers instead of 4. Do you put the 2 Atmos in front? This is talking about what I was mentioning earlier when I was talking about my 5.1.2 experience. I actually had them in top middle.
Yeah,
And that
right above
seemed
your
to,
listing position.
yep, and that seemed to provide the best for that system at least.
Mhm.
Yeah, you lose the separation. Like you wouldn't get separation or panning from front to back or anything like that. So I found that in my space was the best. Let's see. We're doing some lightning rounds. You've got
Well, the only thing I
go ahead.
would add to that is if you're planning on having 4 eventually, then yeah, I would put the 2 Atmos speakers up front, so then you don't have to, take them down or anything if they're right above you.
Right,
That
right.
way they're already there, and all you have to do is put some in the rear if you finally go to 4 height speakers.
Yeah, true, true. Moving on. We're doing lightning round here, guys, because we're
Bang, bang, bang.
bang, bang, bang. Master Nelson asks, what SPL do you usually calibrate the speakers to? I hear TV mixes and near field mixes are monitored at 79 dB. Do you have a preference, Elon?
I usually do 75.
Yeah, I honestly, people make a big stink about the calibration. Like it doesn't really matter what volume you calibrate at, as long as it's consistent each time you
Mhm.
calibrate. You're never
Sure.
going to listen at 79 dB. If I'm being honest, you're never going to bring it up that loud. I calibrate at 75 with the master control at 0, or the
Mhm.
master volume control at 0, and I normally watch movies at like minus 10 to minus 15 below that.
Right.
So I'm never up there. So yeah, I have 75. Some people use 85. What are you comfortable with? Um, and again, as long as you're consistent with it and you match everything to 75 or 79 or 85, it's all going to end up a wash anyway because you're going to reduce the
Yeah.
volume to what you find comfortable.
Yeah.
That's really what that about. All right. And Kit Kumar Dema asks, hi from India. Hello. Thanks for
Oh.
stopping by. Could you please tell me if is it necessary to buy a Marantz Amp 10 with an AV10?
I mean, Marantz will tell you yes, but you can use whatever amp or combination of amps you want.
Right. Right.
Um,
Now, if you're
the
asking if it's necessary to buy, because I think the AV10 is just a processor. There's no
yeah,
amplification, so you will
correct.
need an amp, but you don't necessarily need the Amp 10
No.
if that's what you're asking. Um,
Yeah, because I mean, it's great. The Amp 10 is awesome because it's got 16 channels of amplification, so that takes care of what the AV10 is capable of.
mhm.
But yeah, you can just use whatever amps you want, or if you already have some amps, yeah, you can use those
Yeah.
amps. Sure. I mean, Marantz will tell you that having a Marantz amp paired with a Marantz, preamp is going to give you amazing sonic qualities because they're both manufactured in the same place and they complement one another. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The person that
So,
built this sneezed on this, so now it's obviously gonna inherit those characteristics.
yeah. But at
Um,
the same time, you might like the sonic characteristics of a particular amp already.
yeah,
And you can go ahead and use that because it just depends on whatever sounds good to you in the end. That's all that matters.
that is. And do you care about aesthetics? If you want your amp to match aesthetically, that's
Yeah,
also a consideration.
right.
But I would be more inclined to say what sounds the best to you is what you should go with.
Yeah.
Aesthetics be damned. But thank you for your question. Kevin Gardner. Hey, I hope you're still around, Kevin. Tuesday night movie suggestion time, guys. I'll start with one. It's spooky season as we get into fall, September,
Ooh.
October months. My wife and I watched a movie last week, kind of a sleeper from 2016, called The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Mm,
Excellent DTS HD master audio. I think it's only available on Blu-ray. I don't think it did well at the box office. Has Brian Cox and Emil Hirsch. If you're into kind of slow burn horror films
mm.
that kind of build up to something, it was very surprising. It's kind of a weird movie, but I really enjoyed it and I would highly recommend it if you're into that kind of movie.
Yeah. My wife and I actually just a couple nights ago, we finally saw. I'm kicking myself that we hadn't seen it until a couple nights ago, but we finally saw Parasite, the
Oh,
award-winning Korean film. But goodness, it was such. I need more Korean films in my life, honestly. I loved Old Boy. I loved Parasite because there's just something there's so much humor in it.
hmm
And like the vibe was something I was not prepared for. Because by the cover, you think it's gonna be like this creepy kind of horror movie. But that's totally not the vibe. I mean, yes, it eventually takes a turn because that's the other part that I loved about it is that it was unpredictable. I didn't know where it was going to go next. So all these twists and turns, I was like, this gets my vote. Other than that, though, I mentioned it earlier. If it's been a while since you've watched Akira, and whoever you're watching this movie with tonight doesn't mind anime, then watch Akira. Yeah, so those are my suggestions.
There you go. There you go. This is not a question, but more so a statement. Roof Pizza said had an audio dropout issue where it would skip for a second every few minutes, and the video was fine. After trying many things, recommended a shorter HDMI cable, fixed it 6 feet rather than 15 feet. Yeah, this is something I have seen before. Not a lot, but it happens. My suggestion is go with the shortest length run of any cable you can.
Especially HDMI.
Yeah, especially as you get into HDMI 2.1. If you're gaming, doing 120 hertz, 144 hertz, length matters. Sorry, I couldn't keep a straight face with that one. No, cable length definitely can impact.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, just can impact a lot of things. You could have like Roof Pizza was experiencing audio dropouts, frame skips. Typically, you know, I'm not saying cheap cables do this, but like longer cable runs, especially cheaper cables, not
Mhm.
all, but a lot of cheaper cables, can start to run into issues. It's weird, right? Like they'll be fine for a little while, and then all of a sudden it's just like, whoa, HDMI sparklies, cool. Oh, now it's not picking up the signal at all. Um,
Yeah.
HDMI cables fail. It happens to the best of them, even expensive ones. They can fail. So yeah, go with the shortest cable run that you can, especially for HDMI cables.
Yeah.
The shorter the
'Cause
better.
there's just so much that goes on with information traveling over an
Yeah,
HDMI cable. Like you it's hard to wrap your head around
yeah,
just how much is
and how
passing
fast.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and how fast everything is traveling through that cable.
Yeah. Because just
Um,
just real quick, I'll try and make this as quick as possible. But in my old house, I had so many HDMI switching and video dropouts because it was such a I could only have a really long cable run because it was in a media closet, the AVR was. So I'd have to go up into the attic, over and down to the TV. So I had a 50-foot HDMI cable, and I tried so many different combinations. I even had this thing where like it's just this tiny little HDMI cable that goes into an Ethernet box,
mm,
pretty much. And then the Ethernet cable would go down and then come back out behind the TV. And then again, there was another Ethernet box and then another HDMI cable that would connect to the TV. That didn't work. I even tried optical HDMI cables. That didn't work. So, yeah, shortest length possible if you can.
it's yeah, always, always.
Yeah.
Plus, it's just easier to manage
True.
shorter cables. So,
Yes.
um, yeah, I'm always a fan of like if you think you need 4 feet or 3 feet, you know, I kind of cap out at 6. I typically
Mhm.
don't try to go above, you know, unless I need something very specific or I need it for my
Yeah.
laptop when I'm doing REW or something. But for that,
'Cause
I'm not. It doesn't matter really. I'm not
yeah.
doing 4K. I'm not doing. I. It doesn't like. I'm just. I need to get a signal to the.
Mhm.
But yeah. Anyway.
'Cause here's a I'll just quickly end with this. The thing about it is Yeah, anytime you're dealing with video, go with the shortest cable length possible
Hmm.
because there is just so much going on with video signals. Audio signals, on the other hand, you can have them be pretty darn long and you're still not going to get any degradation or any
Yeah.
dropouts. So, yeah, shortest video, but you can still go, especially if it's an XLR cable.
Yeah, and it's grounded.
XLRs can go hundreds of feet and be fine. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Perfect. Moving on. Joel Gonzalez asks, question: my front LCR needs plus 5 dB level trims when I level match to 75 dB, both manually and auto, with wapow.
YPOW.
YPOW. I switched speakers, receiver, and amp, still the same. Surrounds and Atmos are -1. Any ideas on what to change or try? I'm in the same boat as you, Joel. I think that it comes down to a few things. Look at your speaker's sensitivity, the ohm rating, because that might have an impact. I'm not 100% sure there. I have a Pioneer Andrew Jones, and I think I have them plus, they're each +4 in my receiver. I'm curious
Yeah.
to see what they are when I plug them up to the Energy 7 amp.
Mhm.
Just curious to see if I need to reduce those because the amp is, they're 6 ohm speakers, but they're not very sensitive. They're not, I think they're around 86 dB, 87 dB.
Mm.
So what you might do is if you look at your speakers and you replace the speakers that you had with speakers that have around the same sensitivity, that might be why. That basically, I'm not going to get into what sensitivity means because I'll probably butcher it and then people will eat me alive in the comments. Um, but yeah, that could be why. There's other reasons, but like that would probably be my best guess as to what it could be.
Yeah.
Um, and also,
Distance between you and the listening or
yes,
speakers and the listening
yeah,
position?
yeah. Also, I think that I've never run into an issue being at +4, +5. I've never run into clipping. It really only becomes an issue when you start pushing things
Mhm.
far in terms of like your volume, or maybe you're trying to EQ stuff manually way too much.
Mhm.
You can run into issues, but I've never run into an issue um, with any type of clipping with my fronts or any of my speakers for that matter. So
Yeah.
that would be my suggestion.
Thanks, Joel.
Let's see. Oh, I think I just hid. I think that, yeah. Okay. Thought I hid the wrong comment. Here we go. Last 4 questions here, guys. We're gonna wrap everything up. Dare. Dare what?
Like
Dare
the dared to
against drunk
yeah.
areas of reciprocating electrical eels? No. What Dare asks, what are your thoughts on 3 bed level in walls and 2 in ceiling speaker for surrounds? And would you also add 2 in ceilings in the front to make 5.1.2? Do you want to take point on this one, Elon, or do you have an opinion on this?
3 bed level in walls,
So I think
2
he's
in
talking
ceiling
about
speakers.
LCR in walls
Mhm.
and then
2 in
2
ceiling.
like, yeah.
Would you also add 2 in ceilings in the front?
I know what my suggestion would be, but
Oh, so 2 in ceilings would be, your surrounds,
yeah.
and then 2 up front to make 5.1.2. Um,
I would go in wall for the surrounds if you can, instead of ceiling speakers. That would be my suggestion.
yeah. I mean, there's
Um,
probably a reason he's got in ceilings for the
yeah, that's
surrounds
true. So
anyway.
if you
But if your front 3, if your LCR are in wall, that's a pretty good chance that they're a decent distance away from the ceiling. Um, so yeah, I'll probably go for
yeah.
2 in ceilings as long as they're angled.
Mhm.
Yeah, have them kind of more towards the front, towards the TV, but make sure you get the kind of in ceiling speakers that are like are already at a 30-degree angle in the housing itself. So that way it's pointing more towards you. Yeah, that would be my suggestion. I'd say go for it because Sounds like it could be fun.
Yeah. I mean, if you are in a situation where you can't have in walls for the side surrounds or the surrounds, then yeah, in ceiling is going to be your only option. And there's honestly, I've heard great integrations, but like Elon said, definitely make sure they're angled and can be positioned properly because that the positioning and angle of those is really going to determine how they sound.
Yeah.
So just make sure to get those right, and you're golden, man. Golden. Thanks for the question. Andrew Edwards. I don't know why I said that in a British accent, but it sounded very British. Andrew Edwards asks, IMAX enhanced. Actually, IMAX enhanced.
Enchanted.
That is a missed opportunity. They really, honestly, that I would think it would have been better.
I know,
No,
right?
I'm just giving you crap. Just giving you crap. So IMAX Enhanced, is it limited to 5.1.4? If so, does it matter? I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, the new Disney Plus version of IMAX Enhanced
Mm.
DTSX is in fact limited to 5.1.4. But that doesn't mean you're not going to get sound out of your surround backs if you have more than 5.1.4. When I was doing some tests with the video I made a couple weeks ago about IMAX Enhanced on Disney Plus, I mean, yeah, I was still hearing stuff out of all of my speakers, even though I was running 7.2.4. So even though it's mixed or being presented or shooting down, the
Yeah.
the information superhighway at 5.1.4, my Marantz was able to up mix it to 7.2.4 because that's what I have. And I mean, yeah, because when I first read that before I had a Sony TV, so I could actually test it out, I was disappointed. I was like, oh, 5.1.4, that's lame. I mean, they spent all this time and they had so many
Yeah.
delays, and finally, now that it's out, now you're telling me it's limited to 5.1.4. Doesn't matter. I heard what I heard, and I loved it. So, yeah, that's
That
just
should be their slogan.
those are just numbers to me.
Yeah. That
What
should be
I
their slogan, though. I heard what I heard, and I loved it. Elon Osborne.
New T-shirt.
Hey, there you
Uh,
go.
but yeah, it's still, even if it's limited to 5.1.4, it still sounded better than Disney Atmos. So that's all I care about.
Atmos is in the corner crying. Also, how did I know this? He is from London.
Oh my
That's amazing.
goodness.
That's amazing. How did I? Well, I'm sorry if I offended you with my terrible British accent. It's an amalgamation of every British accent I've ever heard in every movie. Like part Harry Potter, part Laurence Olivier, and part no, I don't know. All right, so we have 3 more questions. I highlighted the last one because he said he loved us, so gotta take it. We gotta take it. Jason MC or Jason Mick.
Mick.
Let's go. Elon, in your living room setup, have you considered using any of the Golden Ear center channels on your mantle to round out the 4.1 to 5.1?
Not on my mantle, but I have considered putting an in wall above the TV. Still don't know if I'm going to follow through with that or not, because yeah, that would definitely give me a center channel, which would be awesome. I don't know. I'd have to run that by my wife again. It's been a while since I pitched that idea to her. But at the same time, I mean, it is a speaker that's just there in the wall. So that may be an eyesore to some degree. But I mean, I know they make that's why they call them the Golden Ear Invisa speakers, because they are, pretty invisible, and they are pretty aesthetically pleasing, even though there's a grill there.
Yeah.
But I could also paint over the grill with the same color as my wall too, if I really wanted to make it that much more invisible. But yeah, someday I may end up doing that, because I looked at previous pictures of when the house was being built, and sure enough, there are two 2x4s going up that should be almost perfectly where I could put a center channel in between those two studs. So fingers crossed that's actually the case, because if there's a 2x4 running directly, in the middle of where the center channel should be, then
Just cut it, man.
I'm not
Who
going to put
cares?
it.
We don't need that. We don't need
Yeah.
that fire block or fire
Nah.
break or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Who cares? All right. Let's see. We got two more questions. I'm gonna Starbucks this name. J Rich Emmy. J Rashim. J Rechemi. Is Apple 4K TV Apple TV 4K going with upgrade for DTS:X IMAX Enhanced? That's a good question. I don't think so. The Apple TV 4K or 4K TV has not supported DTS. I don't. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna talk. Yeah, I don't think. I don't know if it's been a while since I've used it. That's the problem. I could
Well, the
have
thing
swore.
is, it still doesn't support true HD Dolby.
Right.
It
Right.
only
So
supports
I
Dolby
think he's
Digital Plus.
maybe talking about IMAX Enhanced on like Disney Plus.
Right.
It just depends on what chip they used. Let me hold on. I gotta Google this because now I'm wondering.
If they do finally support it, it's most likely going to be with the next generation. I don't think current ones will have the right
Right.
hardware to
Yeah.
support it.
There's no DTS support on the current Apple 4K TV. I just looked it up.
Yeah. So yeah, if they
So
do finally support it, it's probably going to be because I think Gen 3 is out now. I think it'll be with the Gen 4. But my prediction is that just like with everything Apple, it is going to be the very last streamer that will support DTS:X, because Apple loves to let everybody else kind of do their thing and start with it. Once all the bugs are out, once it's been out long enough to where they can actually properly integrate it into the Apple ecosystem, then they might follow through. But my prediction is the Google TV streamer that just came out. Although I still don't think it has the right hardware to support DTS:X audio or IMAX Enhanced audio. So they might have to come out with a next generation sooner than later. But yeah, Fire TV, Roku. I think those are the streamers that are probably going to support it sooner than Apple TV 4K for sure.
awesome. Yeah, I think the chip that they currently use in the Apple 4K TV does not support DTS. So like their SoC that they've used, similar to how like the certain older LG OLEDs and LG TVs don't have DTS support or even DTS pass through. It's because those chips just do not have that capability or support. So they would need to upgrade that chip, and you can't download a chip upgrade. Unfortunately, it's like you can't download more RAM on your computer, but you can download more gigabits. No, I don't know. Yeah, that's what I do every time when I download gigabits. All right, last question here, because this is a guy that said, "Love you guys, BTW."
Oh, thanks.
So
Tim DMX 512.
thank you, Tim DMX 512.
What?
Question: toe-in mains or not? It depends on what kind of speakers they are. If they are AMT like ribbon style tweeters that have a very wide dispersion, it may not be necessary to toe them in. But if they're more kind of directional, they have a like smaller pattern. The Dolly, yeah, I probably wouldn't toe those in.
Well, it also depends on how many people are watching.
That's true.
If
Dolly,
it's like a big
yeah.
couch, probably not toe in very much.
I
'Cause,
saw.
like
Yeah,
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry.
Like in my theater, since it's only me and it's just my one theater seat, Yeah, I have mine towed in because I want them angled at me because it's just one seat. But if it's a
Yeah.
big couch, yeah, I probably wouldn't tow them in much at all, if any.
I think he's talking about the Dolly Oberon. So Dolly typically, in a lot of their, because he even Dolly themselves say no. You
Yeah.
don't tow them in. I know on like the O5s, I haven't heard the O5s. I did hear the Rubicore at Audio Advice Live, and those actually surprised me. They weren't towed in at all, but they have like two tweeters. They have like a
Ooh.
AMT style like ribbon tweeter, and then also like just a silk tone. I think it's silk tone tweeter. Don't quote
Hmm.
me on that. It was a lot of products I saw trying to keep them all separate.
Yeah.
But yeah, the dispersion is so wide. There's like this kind of bright sparkle to the highs on them, and they don't recommend towing them in because of that. You get really wide. Like I was like I was shooting B-roll for the video I shot for Audioholics, and I noticed like it sounded pretty damn good everywhere in the room, and this was in a kind of crappy conference room in a hotel.
Oh,
So
yeah.
um, yeah, I would say, if Dolly tells you not to do it, I mean, you can experiment on your own, but you may find that the highs become a little too prominent when you tow them in, even if you tow them in like 15 degrees or something small like that.
Yeah.
That would be my answer. Yeah, Dolly's kind of like a elusive
Yeah.
steed
True.
out in the wilderness of I don't know what I'm saying.
Dolly needs a T-shirt that just says "Dolly says no."
So actually, um I'm trying to remember what the guy said in the video, but he's like, there's a joke within Dolly that has oh god, what is it? Dolly stands for Danish audio loudspeaker something, but he's like, but it also means don't angle loudspeaker inwards. And I thought it was so funny, like that's and I just yeah. Uh, but well, thank you, Tim, for the question. I'm glad we could help. Thank you for the kind
Yeah.
words. We try our best, and I'll end this by saying, we're both Elon and I are enthusiasts. We're not professionals. Well, I mean, I can't speak for Elon there, but I love this
No,
hobby,
I'm
but
not
I
a professional.
love helping people. And sometimes I do get things wrong, but I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong. And
Mm.
I just I love all of this stuff, and I love helping you guys get the most out of what you have, and what you can hopefully carry with you to your next upgrade or whatnot, because knowledge is priceless. I don't want to sound like cliche or cheesy, but it really is. You learn something one time, and then now you benefit from it every single time you upgrade or you help a friend, and they're like, wow, I didn't know my system could sound like this.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
Hey, look
thank
at
you.
this.
What happened?
Saw Dog felt a little left out. He
Oh,
also said, "Love you guys." Thanks, Saw Dog.
oh, thank you, Saw Dog. Well, Tim, there's going to be some new REW videos coming very soon, so strap in. It's going to get real. I'm just kidding. There are going to be new REW videos talking about various topics that I've always wanted to cover now that I'm back making content.
Woo.
Um, so yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But I just want to thank you everybody for hanging out with us, or coming and hanging out with us on a Tuesday night. Next week, I don't know what day we're gonna do. I'll do the poll and we'll see. I might be on a Thursday. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
What do people think? But Elon, do you have any final closing words for the
Let's see. Oh, kind of going back to that question towards the beginning where it's like, what is, it seems like companies are pushing too much on us and we
Mhm.
don't really need everything that they're trying to sell us. Um, I would want to leave this AMA with just saying, try and your ultimate goal should be try and get as close as you can to the actual movie theater experience. Because that's what we're all striving for with a home theater, especially now because we're not visiting the actual movie theater or cinema anymore.
Right.
So whatever that, however you can achieve that, doesn't matter how many speakers, doesn't matter which AVR, whatever you happen upon that makes you think, whoa, that's pretty much like I was in a cinema right now. You're good. You're golden. So that should be your goal, whether that be a particular AVR, whether that be maybe you need separates, whether that be a particular brand of speaker that just really just gives you that same feeling, uh, that as if you're in an actual cinema. That's what you should be striving for. So, however much money that means, I don't know, or as big or as small as you need to go to achieve that feeling, that should be the ultimate goal. There you go.
Bada bing, bada boom. That's it.
All right.
I'm gonna disagree with Elon. Just use headphones for everything. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't do it. Don't do it. Well, all right, guys, we are gonna end it here. Thank you again, everyone, for joining, asking your questions, all the super chats that came in. Really appreciate it. We'll be here again, hopefully next week, Tuesday or Thursday. Keep your eyes peeled on our community tab,
Yeah.
just to make sure if we have to do whatever to, life gets in the way, all that stuff, fun stuff. And also, this episode should be available tomorrow on Spotify and Apple Music or wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, that's going to do it for me. Again, thank you guys for joining, and we will catch you next week, hopefully.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
See you later. Get out of here. Go watch Akira if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a very long time. Talking about it earlier in the stream made me want to go watch it as soon as the stream is over. So maybe we can be stream buddies and watch Akira together in spirit.